All right, it's week 5, and it's story time again. Just getting my desk all zoomed up here. There we go. I think that's probably good. Yeah, perfect, man. So this week, the story is titled, "Oh, the Places You Will Go." And yeah, so I'm looking at the screen again, back at the lens. All right. So basically, the point of this one is, you never know where you're going to end up in life, and there's no straight lines to get anywhere. It's kind of fucked and kind of hard to comprehend that you're kind of supposed to know what you want to do for the rest of your life in high school. That's crazy. It's always seemed crazy to me. And the older I get, the more I think it's crazy. I was the last generation of OAC, which was grade 13, which basically was the 5th year of high school. And even still, no idea what you want to do with your life at that point. You go down to the guidance counselor, and they ask you, do you want to be a firefighter? Do you want to be a nurse? Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a teacher? Do you want to be an engineer? There's 7 or 8 templated jobs that they kind of were pushing at the time, and then it changes with time. And they do their best. And I'm not trying to knock guidance counselors, but it's not the world we live in today. The amount of my buddies that are in jobs that didn't exist when we were in high school are a pretty high percentage. And so, it's kind of crazy that in high school, it's like, okay, well, if you want to be an engineer, then you need to have all these different maths. In order to have those different maths, you need to take these particular ones in grade 11 and then grade 10 and then so in grade 9 and 10, you got to start really thinking about what classes you're going to take to get the career that you want, that you really have no idea. And how could you? You're 17, you're 16, you're 15, you're 18. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I just want to explain a little bit about my crazy path that I took that is not normal. There's some normalness to it, but I kind of wound and zigzagged all over the place and collected a couple degrees and diplomas and technically didn't need any of the stuff that I got. I could have done what I'm doing without it, but I wouldn't be where I am today without going down that winding path, and ended up with my wife and ended up in Thunder Bay with my beautiful kids and the life that I have. So it's kind of funny. I jokingly go back to all the time, like that quote in Finding Nemo that Dory says is, "Just keep swimming." And as silly as that kind of sounds at the time, because Dory's a fish that has a very short-term memory and is a hilarious character, it's such a good point in life. It's like, if you don't know what to do, point in a direction and start moving. If you sit still, it's not going to end up well. So you just gotta, even if you don't know what you want to do, you gotta point in a direction and just start moving in that direction. And so basically I was in high school, and my dad was a teacher, my mom was a secretary, and so I kind of thought maybe I wanted to be a teacher. And in grade 12, my dad retired early and ended up taking a job as a camp director at a really cool camp called Lakefield Camp International, just outside of Peterborough in Lakefield. And it was basically a camp where all of these super rich kids would come to learn English from all over the world. And it was such a cool camp to work at. And these kids were super fun to hang out with and teach. And they had horseback riding and sailing and windsurfing and golf and basketball and skateboarding and you name it. It was a pretty crazy camp. And a bunch of my dad's high school kids that he knew came and worked as counselors at this camp. And so when it came time for me to apply to universities, I applied to Ryerson and Brock and a couple other places that were good for teaching, Nipissing. And then two of the guys actually were both just "Oh, have you applied to Lakehead University? It's it's really far, but absolutely awesome school. You can't overlook it. At least apply, And so luckily I did apply, and I got in, I think, at 3 of the 4 places I applied, but one was just a regular Bachelor of Arts. One was for what was called OTT, which was you had a preference in being picked for Teachers College at the end, but not a guarantee. And then I got in for concurrent ed at Lakehead University in Thunder Bay. And that basically meant that when I finished my undergrad, I would automatically get a spot in Teachers College. And it was kind of a no-brainer. It was a little scary because not a single person I knew from high school was going to Lakehead. I was going all by myself, 17 hours away. But I didn't really care. It was kind of like, I'm such a loser. I was such a nerd. It was like, school's important and I'm going for me, not for my friends. And so I ended up going to LU and absolutely loved it. It's the coolest school ever. It's like going to school in Algonquin Park. There's a lake in the middle of campus. The residence is like in a forest. It's just, the school is phenomenal. And so I did an undergrad in psychology and fell in love with psychology. It was super cool. There was so much stuff that I learned that really was just like, it felt like common sense because I already kind of thought like that. And so there's so many things that I learned that it was just like, oh, that's why I think that, or oh, that's why people do that. And it was just really cool. And it's been the foundation for a lot of how I deal with people in business and just in life in general. So the psychology degree has been extremely useful. So I did my 4 years of psychology, and in my 4th year, I should have gone to teachers college the next year for my 5th year. But I took a black and white film class in my 4th year as an elective because one of my friends took it the year before and took some pictures of me snowboarding for one of her projects, and just thought it was the coolest class ever. Like, we get credit for doing photography, and so that was pretty cool. And so I took it in my 4th year, and then when it came time to go do my teachers college year, I looked into deferring for a year because I got asked to be the TA for that photography class in my 5th year. And so instead of doing teachers college, I deferred for a year and took a few extra psych classes, because when I deferred for the year to like put it off, they basically like took some of my credits back that were part of my teaching degree. And so I didn't have enough credits to graduate with my honors psychology degree that I had, because I was going to be a few credits short because they took some of the education ones back. And so I did, like, it was the easiest course load ever. I think I had like 2 courses, and then the class I was TAing, the photography class, and it was a blast. And I absolutely fell in love with photography and knew immediately. Like, I was an entrepreneurial kid, ran a snow shoveling business and a lawn cutting business and all this stuff, but that didn't ever click that was something you could do as a grown-up. It was just like, oh, it was my little hustle as a kid. And you go and get a real job and you do your 9 to 5 and get a pension and benefits and whatever, right? So like I went and got that, and so I graduated with my honors psych degree and then applied to Durham College in Oshawa to do multimedia, because it was like, I want to do photography, but I kind of want to learn all the other stuff, just so that I know how to build websites and do graphic design and do all this other stuff that would help me in my pursuit of a photography career. And it was another 3 years of school, so now I'm up to 8 years of school. But it was super helpful in the sense that, like, it really gave me the ability to talk to all these different professionals in the field and not sound like a total idiot. So like, and I did, when you first start a business, you kind of do a little bit of everything. So I was doing a little bit of web development, very little graphic design. I have almost no skill in that. Lots of photography, a lot of video actually. I shot a lot of concert photography, which was super cool. Got to travel all over Canada with a bunch of like Canadian hip hop acts. I got to meet Classified, go to his house. I got to shoot Wu-Tang Clan and Naughty by Nature and I don't know, like tons and tons of bands, and it was a blast. So when I finished my 3-year multimedia diploma at Durham College, my now wife, we were communicating and having a long distance relationship while I was in Oshawa, and so decided after I graduated, we decided it was time to kind of try and make a go of it and move to Thunder Bay and really give it a go. And so I ended up moving from Oshawa to Thunder Bay. And my wife suggested that because Teachers College was switching to 2 years, it would probably be a good idea to finish that up, since it was going to be 2 years in the future. And so I can't remember if I had to reapply or if I was able to kind of jump back in on my deferred credit that I had from before. I imagine I had to apply again. I can't remember though. And so yeah, so I came back to Lakehead and Thunder Bay, and this would have been now my 9th year of school. And I finished teachers college, and so I now have a teaching degree in primary junior, but had been shooting for the last 3 years as well while I was in college and going to school and kind of starting a business and stuff. And so yeah, so like it was a long, crazy road to kind of get to where I am. And it was not a straight line, and there's a lot of stuff that I got that isn't necessarily needed to be where I am. And there's my alarm to make sure that I shoot this video because it's Sunday night and I just got back from hockey. But yeah, and so it just, you just keep moving in a direction and stuff kind of falls into place. It's really weird. Starting a photography business was the first time in my life that I ever really had like faith. There's going to be a whole nother video on faith and spirituality and all that cool stuff. Because I've gone, once again, through quite the journey with that as well. But my business was the first thing, well, actually my family was the first faith that I ever had to move to Thunder Bay with Stacy to start a family, not knowing what the hell I was going to do and still in debt from university and all that. And so faith in family first. And then luckily my wife had faith in me, and then put faith into the business and just started moving forwards and started shooting. And I think I already did a video about how the business started, and so I won't go into that, but pretty crazy path from high school, going to school to be a teacher, and then, well, actually going to a summer camp first, meeting people that said to go to a particular university, apply, get into that university, end up in Thunder Bay, go to go to Lakehead, and once again, like I ended up getting a kitchen job because of a fluke incident that happened that I'll explain another time. And then from that kitchen job, worked in other kitchens, and then got a call one Saturday morning to come work at the golf course if I wanted a job, and that's actually where I met my wife. So once again, if I didn't pick up the phone, I wouldn't have been at that golf course and wouldn't have met my wife. And then to my friend taking pictures, me snowboarding to spark my interest in photography. And actually when I dropped the classes and stuff to do the 5th year to be the TA, I got a $1,000 refund from one of my classes, and that's what bought one of my first my Nikon D50 and a fisheye lens to start off kind of my career there. And then yeah, and so took the photography class and then went back to college and then came back to Thunder Bay and then did teachers college. And so now I have a teaching degree and a multimedia diploma, and technically didn't need any of that stuff to be doing what I'm doing. If I had the work ethic and the drive when I was younger, I could have just started, but I needed the kick in the ass. I needed the long journey to really beat me into submission of like, it's all on you. There's no teacher, there's no deadlines that anyone's going to put on you. When you run your own business, it's all on you. And so yeah, I'm super pumped how I ended up where I ended up. It was not a straight line, but just kept moving forwards. And so if you're in high school and you don't know what to do in life, that is totally normal. Just pick something you're interested in and start down that path. You don't necessarily have to go to university. You can go to university, you can go to college, you can do an apprenticeship, you can just start working. There's so many things you could just start working, and if you have good work ethic and work hard and good people skills, you can end up in incredible places. There isn't just one path to success, and you do not need to pay for a degree. You just don't have to. You can. It's a safety net. It's there's certain jobs you need it for, but there are a million jobs that you do not need a degree for and pay really, really well, or jobs that only need like a 1-year apprenticeship or a 1-year diploma that pay really well. So don't waste your money if you don't have to, and enjoy the journey and just keep moving.